Good evening, everyone. Oh, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Utility, Safety, and Environment Committee meeting for Monday, January 29th, 2024. The first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the January 3rd, 2024 Utilities Committee meeting minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Was moved by Mr. Oswald and second by Mr. Stewart. Are there any questions?
Question.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is the matter of entering into a local public agency agreement with ODOT for the Lower Elyria TLCI Phase 5 project. Engineer Schneider, good evening.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tonight, we're looking for approval from council to enter into an agreement, or have the mayor into an agreement with ODOT for LPA work completed downtown, the TLCI. This is the fifth phase of the TLCI for us in the downtown area. Typically, in the past, it included things like crosswalks, concrete work, pavement marking, street lighting, things of that nature. So it helps improve multimodal as well as safety in the downtown area for pedestrians. We are looking, this grant is 100% grant paid by NOACA through the TLCI. Anything over and above whatever is approved through NOACA would be 100% city costs. So that's why we have some numbers in there for city costs as well. But so this is the fifth time. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Engineer Schneider? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a local public agency agreement with ODOT for TLCI Phase 5 project, and this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a local public agency agreement with ODOT for TLCI Phase 5 project. The city share of $27,000 will be paid with Muni Motor Vehicle funds. Mr. Snyder, does this need to be an emergency?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Emergency clause requested. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Stewart, second by Mrs. Davis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Excuse me. The next item on the agenda is a matter of applying for up to $15,000 for asset management program development through the Ohio EPA. Superintendent Jacobs, good evening.
For you, Madam Chair. I got an email a few weeks ago that this grant was available from the EPA, up to $15,000 to update our asset management plan. That's what we like to apply for, update our plan. It's about 5 years old. We're talking to a couple consultants to help us do that and look for computer software for the future. And we'd like this passed as an emergency.
Yes, sir. Are there any questions for Superintendent Jacobs? Seeing none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of applying for up to $15,000 for asset management program development through the Ohio EPA, and this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept the said grant. Emergency clause requested. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Davis, second by Mr. Oswald. Are there any other questions?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There is no other business to come before this committee. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Okay, at this time, I'll call community development to order. We have 2 items on the agenda tonight. First one is the approval of the community development meeting minutes from January 8th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Mitchell, seconded by Mr. Oswald.
Question.
All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 2 is the matter of rezoning requests for multiple parcels on Leona Street between Midway Boulevard and 52nd Street for a senior housing development. This is referred by McGregor Pace, CHN Housing Partners. Mayor Brubaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on January 18th, we had a special planning commission meeting, and again, I thank the 6 representatives from City Council that were able to be there to ask questions and to give input. McGregor Pace and CHN Housing Partners were there, and they made a very nice presentation, and they are here this evening that will also make that same presentation, but Planning Commission did pass the matter of the rezoning unanimously, and provided it passes community development here tonight. As I stated in an email to you folks last week or so, that I would ask that due to the time constraints on this for the financing, as well as for particularly McGregor Pace and their need to expend ARPA money that has helped funding this by the end of the year, that provided council's approval of this, that we would pass this with 2 readings at the second reading at the second council meeting in February. So with that being said, I know McGregor Pace is here as well as CHN Housing, so I'm going to ask them to come to the mic with your permission, Mr. Chairman, and give their presentation.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Just please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Ann Kahn, and I'm the president and CEO of the McGregor Foundation. Address?
The name of the company.
Okay. Go ahead and say your name. My name is Laura Bustani. I'm External Affairs Vice President for CHN Housing Partners, also in Cleveland.
And I'm Dave DeFrancisco, Principal with Heedy DeFrancisco and Siebold Architects in Cleveland.
Did you want? Go ahead. Just in case.
For the record, Michael Byer, B-I-E-R, Senior Project Manager, CHN Housing Partners.
Thank you, council members, for your attention and allowing us to kind of walk through this presentation tonight. We're going to walk through tell you a little bit about who we are, each of the organizations, to give you a little bit of background and how long we've been in business. We're going to talk about the other developments that we've done together, share a little bit about what is PACE, which is very unique. And right now, Cuyahoga County is the only county in Ohio that has a PACE program. Lorain is going to be the second, which we're really excited about. And then we'll walk through the architectural plans and open it up for questions at that point in time. Yeah, that's perfect. So just a little bit about McGregor. We've been around for over 140 years, since 1877. When you think about McGregor, think about all things seniors or older adults. So we take care of all of the needs, from independent apartments through assisted living, long-term care, and skilled nursing, and our end-of-life program. And currently, we are the only PACE provider in the state of Ohio, and we provide those services in Cuyahoga County. This is a picture of our location on the east side of Cleveland. And so currently, we serve about more than 1,000 seniors a day. The majority of those, about 670 individuals, are living in the community and are supported through our PACE program, which is what we'll be talking about here today. Over the last couple of years, we've invested in some expansion throughout Cuyahoga County, and you can see here we added 80 new affordable apartments, so senior living apartments on our campus. 26 of them were through a renovation of an older building, and then 54 apartments were a new building that was developed through tax credit, the tax credit program in the state of Ohio. And that was opened in August. And then in December of 2023, we opened our newest PACE center, relocating it from near the zoo in Cuyahoga County, if you're familiar with that, to right behind Ridge Park Square off of Ridge Road in the Brooklyn neighborhood. And that's very similar to the type of building that we're talking about developing here in Lorain County. And then you can see farther down just that we currently have the only affordable mixed-use unit assisted living project in the state of Ohio that was funded through the tax credit program as well.
Just a little bit about who CHN is. We were founded in 1981 in Cleveland. We're a nonprofit. We only a couple of years ago decided to expand into Lorain County, so I'll say a little bit more about our work in Lorain in a minute. Our mission is to leverage the power of affordable, stable housing to change lives and improve communities. Our focus, our operating principle, is the power of a permanent address. We're partners to sister nonprofits, government agencies, financial institutions to improve housing stability and also work on home ownership opportunities to increase those for everybody. We serve 50 to 60,000 people annually. We have helped 3,200 families become successful homeowners. We own or manage about 2,500 units, and we've developed over 7,000 units and homes over our 42 years. We have more than 3 decades of experience in housing tax credits, which is a specialized source of funding by the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. It provides us the ability to leverage private, non-governmental funding to finance the construction of long-term, quality, affordable housing. In Lorain, like I said, I would share, we acquired in 2023 New Sunrise Properties, a portfolio of over 200 units of housing of all types. And in the last year, we've received, a couple years now, 3 low-income housing tax credit awards, one for Sunrise Neighborhood Living, a 36-unit preservation project spread across Lorain, Elyria, and Carlisle Township, a tax credit award for Sunrise Homes, a 35-unit preservation project in Lorain, and a 62-unit permanent supportive housing in Lorain as well. Our lending arm, CHN Housing Capital, is expanding its Believe Mortgage to Lorain County. The Believe Mortgage we launched in 2021. It's designed to make home ownership accessible to families through looking at the full financial profile of a family or an applicant rather than a snapshot of data. quick preview. Here's what our other senior housing developments look like in Cleveland. Huff Heritage at East 97th. It's right near the Cleveland Clinic. That's on the left. On the right is Maple Park Place in Maple Heights, serving 60 seniors, and Huff Heritage serving 48. They are beautiful, quality buildings. Back to Ann. So these are 3 pictures of our PACE program centers in Cuyahoga County, which we operate in different parts of the county. The one at the top right was located off of Emory Road, so think 271 and 480. That's roughly 22,000 square feet and provides support to 175 older adults of the 670 that I talked about earlier. The one on the bottom left is located in East Cleveland on our 45-acre campus, and that one was opened in 2020. And the one on the bottom right is the one that I mentioned that we just opened in December of 2023. So PACE is an acronym. It stands for Program for All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. It's an insurance-based model, so think about individuals who rely on Medicare and Medicaid to provide for their health care needs and their long-term supportive services. We coordinate all of the services that are needed, both primary, acute, and long-term care services. So that includes everything from hospitalization to primary care in a clinic to transportation to medication management, as well as if they do need long-term care, we would also pay for those services. The primary model is delivered through our 3 clinics. So there are adult day locations as well as a full clinic in those sites. And really the magic of the PACE program is the interdisciplinary team. So for every 55 to 60 participants, they have a registered nurse and a social worker that is assigned to coordinate all of their care needs to make sure that we are able to help them remain in the community and independent for as long as possible. This program is regulated by Medicare and Medicaid and the Ohio Department of Aging. So we're going to just share real quickly about this development, but I want to just close. So the other piece about when you think about the PACE program, these are individuals that have to be 55 years or older. They have to meet nursing home level of care. So that doesn't mean they live in a nursing home, but they might need assistance with their activities of daily living. And they have to be able to safely live in the community. So through our supports, we're able to provide care or additional assistance to help them remain independent in their home. So when you think about who might qualify for the PACE program, that's another criteria. So this particular development that we're asking to change the zoning for is approximately a 20,000 square foot building. It would be located, and Dave DeFrancisco will walk through the layout of where it's located, but about 2 of the acres would be the PACE Center, and then part of the acreage as well would be the housing component. Mr. Mayor highlighted the issue of the ARPA funds. So we were awarded these funds on December 15th, and they have to be spent before December 31st, 2024. There's just over $6.3 million that was awarded through this ARPA grant. And so while we are already down the road on design, because we know we need to break ground as quick as possible in order to get that completed. And I'll just highlight real quickly that once we're fully up and running, 30 to 50 individuals will be employed at this location. All not serving at that site every day, but that's their home base to be able to provide the home care when they go out into the community to serve the older adults. In addition to the PACE Center, CHN is partnering with McGregor on an application for a 70-unit senior independent living development. And we will be applying to the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, and the application is due on February 29th of this year. Development will consist of all 1-bedroom units with rents between $500 and $1,100, which includes utilities and amenities, including property-wide Wi-Fi and services available through the neighboring PACE development. This development will be owned and managed by CHN and co-developed by CHN and McGregor. And in addition to housing a tax credit, hopefully a housing tax credit award, the development team will be seeking gap financing through OFA and a HUD 202 capital advance fund to support the development, totaling about $22.5 million. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to go there. Just a couple of other partnerships we've worked on with McGregor. McGregor Senior Assisted Living, it opened 2019. It's in East Cleveland on the McGregor campus, provides 90 new affordable and market rate apartments for seniors. CHN is the developer and McGregor is the owner and the property manager, and this was also funded through housing tax credits and other loans and grants. The second partnership we've had is McGregor Senior Independent Living, also on the McGregor campus in East Cleveland, and that was 26 rehabilitated units and 80 new units of senior affordable housing. This was also funded by housing tax credits and funding from Cuyahoga County and a HUD 202 and other sources.
Thank you. So I'm going to walk you through the proposed development and where we're seeking the rezoning. So this is an aerial image of the site. It's outlined in yellow in the center. To the right, you'll see 57 running top and bottom of the screen. Just the other side of 57 is Midway Mall. Directly in front of the site, on the opposite side of Leona, is the Lowe's store that you're probably all familiar with. And then Pikeway Manor is directly to the south. These are some images of the site. As you can see, it's completely undeveloped, and actually Midway Boulevard, which is technically 50th Street, stops becoming a paved road sort of in the middle of this site once you get past the back parking lot of the strip mall on the other side of the street. As was mentioned, the site is currently multiple parcels as well as a proposed street that would run down the middle. We'll obviously be working with the city and Planning Commission on getting it replatted and consolidated for the proposed development. Again, Midway Boulevard off to the right, Lowe's is just off the page to the right, Leona is running top to bottom, and then Midway Boulevard across the top of the page. Here's the overview of the proposed development. The Pace site is located closest to Leona Street, furthest east on the property. You can see that the total combined development approximately takes up 50% of the 8 acres, mostly the northern half of the site. We positioned the Pace closest to Lowe's because the Pace is essentially a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday operation, as opposed to the senior living, which obviously has older folks living there 24/7. And so in an effort to put them in a little quieter part of the land, we tried to move them a little further towards the western edge of the site. Plus, the PACE program is going to have a little more traffic during the day, and this makes it a little easier for them to access off of Midway. The proposed, this is just a close-up of the site. Again, these are very preliminary conceptual plans, but in general, this is how the site would be disposed. We still look forward to continuing to work with city planning and the zoning and design review to satisfy all of their requirements. But you can see that the PACE building is a 1-story building, approximately 19,000 square feet. The senior apartments is planned as a 3-story building of approximately just over 60,000 square feet. This is the floor plan of the PACE building. You can see that it consists of 2 large day rooms on the left half of the plan, and then the clinic and a lot of the staff support spaces are located to the right. Entry drop-off is at the bottom of the page. This is just some very quick studies of how the PACE building would appear. Again, a 1-story building, fairly simple massing, trying to keep the entrance very clearly defined, looking at primarily masonry exterior for ease of maintenance and durability. And then turning to the apartment project, it's essentially a T-shaped building, apartments located on all three levels, however, more on second and third. There are some common spaces, which you see. There's a large community room, which will have access to an outdoor area that's planned for the sort of lower left-hand corner of the T. And then there's also a wellness room facing the entrance to the building, which is currently oriented to the north towards Midway at the top. Use a T-shaped plan to try and minimize travel distance for the seniors. 70 apartments is quite a lot to put into a three-story building, so breaking it up into a T helps keep travel distances to and from the elevator to a minimum. And this is just, again, quick conceptual study of how the building will appear, complementary to the Pace, but obviously very, somewhat different aesthetic given its size. Looking at a flat roof structure to help comply with zoning, which currently limits the height of the building to 40 feet. I know I burned through all of that relatively quickly. Happy to take any questions for the entire group at this time.
Well, thank you very much. I see Mr. Oswald has his hand up, so go right ahead, Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. I was at the presentation. You guys did a great job. I'm real happy you guys chose Elyria to make this your home for one of your buildings. I'm looking at the layout, and it looks like the building is on half the property, and it's all wooded the other half. Is there any chance that it will be redeveloped to put another building on that? Thank you.
So currently, we do not have plans to develop the other side of the parcel. I'm not saying there wouldn't ever be if there's a demand at some point in time for future apartments, but from the Pace Center, that the site that we're building will support the entire service delivery out of Lorain County.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mrs. Davis.
Through you, Chair. Also, I noticed that with the property, how much is left that is adjoining to other people's property, other owners in the area that you have not acquired? So when you're going back, are you still butting up to other property owners in the area?
Sure. Madam Councilwoman, we do abut the parcels to the west. I believe Pikeway Manor owns the majority of those at this time, although I think there are a couple smaller parcels, can't read the names on them from here, but they may be owned separately. There is, however, a dedicated streetway that goes through there. I think that's called Perkins Street, if I'm not mistaken. So really, the site is kind of bounded by either dedicated streets or proposed rights-of-ways.
Mrs. Davis.
Through you again, Chair, because my concern before was, and thank you, because this is in my ward, and I was concerned about the traffic flow, that I was hoping that seeing this, that it would also take us out onto Griswold Road, and that we wouldn't have a hitch up there on Leona. So that's why I'm asking, with the concern of other property owners, if you had tried to acquire those properties, or you think that the traffic flow is going to be with what is it, new residents with cars coming in and out, what we're looking at as the traffic flow.
So in our other projects, and I think CHN can also speak to this, on average, most of the individuals living in those apartments, maybe 1 out of every 2 have their own car, their own vehicle. And so from a traffic perspective, there's actually not a lot of traffic coming to and from the apartment complex. All of the traffic for Pace will enter near the area that's already developed. So we'll have Lowe's on one side, and then I guess it's the strip center to the top of that. So we won't be near any residential properties from the McGregor Pace portion of the development. Does that answer your question? I apologize.
It kind of answered when you said that it won't be close to, through you, Chair, excuse me, because I know there are houses that sits on Griswold directly behind the shopping center there. There's about 3 houses there and several businesses that sits directly on Griswold in that particular area.
Yeah, and actually, Midway Boulevard West, or 50th Street currently does not go through to Griswold. And actually, the homes there used to be a single-family house. It shows up in this aerial. This aerial is probably a couple of years old. That house is no longer there. The trees to the west of the site are no longer there. I'm assuming Pikeway Manor has begun clearing that site for a future development. I'm not really sure. So there really isn't anything else that's accessed to the west of this site from Midway Boulevard, because you saw the photo with the Jersey barriers. It stops being a road right in the middle of this site, so there really isn't any residents further west that would be directly impacted by this, I don't believe.
Mrs. Sawarka?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I still have concerns about 50th Street, which I mentioned at the Planning Commission meeting, because I have a feeling that with the development, 50th Street's going to have to get paved, and that's going to come back to us, I'm guessing. But I'll set that aside for a moment. I have some specific questions about your caring for these people. So they're all single, one-bedroom apartments. Married couples allowed? Yes. Does one have to qualify by needing the helps with the 5 different daily living?
So the independent apartments are, that does not require the same, so you don't have to be part of the PACE program to live in the independent apartments. So what I was describing for PACE does not directly tie to the independent apartments, but absolutely we have married couples that live in the apartments together in a 1-bedroom.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. I also wondered, your PACE facility, the doctors are going to be credentialed through university, Cleveland Clinic?
So currently we have 2 primary relationships. They are credentialed through university hospitals as well as Metro Hospital in Cuyahoga County. But we are looking to work with both Mercy as well as university hospitals. So the physicians actually work for the PACE program. We have 3 geriatricians and 9 nurse practitioners that support our individuals across Cuyahoga County. But when they're in the hospital, we work with the hospitalists to provide that care. So we would be working with both Mercy as well as university hospitals for the area.
I think those are all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Schneider?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your investment into Elyria. It's a great project. And I know you had made comment that the central location was attractive to you. So that's, a great project. My question was, it might be directed more towards the building department or the engineer. Well, didn't we originally have a plan where Pikewood Manor was going to come out onto Griswold Road?
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Schneider. Back in 2020, Pikewood Manor absorbed several properties and rezoned it for future development. The intent was to build an access road, but not a true road, only for the residents that would tie into Griswold.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question to the petitioners, what's your completion timeframe for both projects to be done, the housing and the PACE building?
So the goal for the PACE program, we would love to be completed by the end of December. My architect and building partners would probably say I'm being too aggressive, so I would say to be conservative, by the end of the first quarter of 2024. The housing development, the awards are not completed until the summer of 2024, and most typically, as long as funding is lined up, it would be break ground in the spring of 2025, and then usually a year, 12 months of development at that point in time.
Great, thank you.
Mrs. Sawarka?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one additional question. perhaps for the engineer, is Ernest Street a public dedicated street or private? I think that's the name of it, Ernest. It comes off of Lark Lane there.
Unfortunately, I don't know which one you're talking about. There's a lot of paper streets there that, a number have been vacated over time.
I have the plat that has a few more street names, maybe, that one.
Oh, private. Private.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other questions at this time?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would just ask if Mr. Fargus of the Building Department, if he just has any comments he'd like the committee to hear before they, just on his behalf. I have seen your memo. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, through you to the Law Director. Planning Commission went very well. This is probably, it seems complex, but it's one of the easier from a zoning perspective. So long that all the ducks are in the row. Right now, we're rezoning due to the urgency and the timeline. The next step is, of course, a replat due to the paper streets. We got to vacate some things. After that, it's once we get an actual site plan of what's proposed, some variances will be needed.
Thank you. Normally, when we do these requests for rezonings, the clerk's office sends out letters to adjoining property owners. Over the weekend, I did receive a call from one property owner in regards to some questions that he had. I do believe he may have a family member here, would be the Holtzman family. And if you would like to come up, state your name for the record and what your concerns were, and then maybe we can address that.
My name is Shelley Spieth. My father is Chuck Holtzman, and that property that backs up to the road where they want to build this has been in my family for 80 years or so. We've not decided what we want to do with it, but we want to know if we choose to do something commercial on what we own. Is the water going to be in, the sewer lines, the electric? Are we going to be able to access that road? I mean, I'm already looking at Pipework Manor, which I don't enjoy anymore, and now we're going to add another structure in my backyard.
I'm not sure if engineering or anybody could get us the ball rolling on these questions.
And to my knowledge, I don't think anyone reached out to our family in regards to what was happening early on as the ball started rolling.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Just for point of reference, the Holtzman, it looks like there's 7 parcels, and I would call that northwest of the development on Midway Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as utilities in the area, there is a water main currently on 50th Street, 16-inch water main, so that's not an issue, as well as on Griswold Road. I would assume that if there was something large commercial going in there, they could tie into Griswold Road as well. There's sanitary sewer there. There's water as well. As far as sanitary sewer for this exact location, we haven't seen the final plans yet. The nearest sanitary sewer for them is located in front of the strip mall on Leona Street there. It's probably about 250 feet away. So it would need to be extended to the property. And as far as stormwater, there is limited stormwater in this location. The new development we would require retention. So they would take care of their own stormwater as far as, but other than that, for any other utilities.
Thank you. Okay, if there are further questions and more technical questions and more specific, I'm assuming, family members could reach out to engineering? Okay, thank you, thank you. Are there any other questions, concerns?
Through you, Mr. Chair, obviously depending on how the committee determines this evening, public hearing will be announced. That would tentatively be the second council meeting in February due to the President, thank you, yes, President's Day holiday. That would be Tuesday, February 20th. Much as Planning Commission dictates, adjacent property owners will be notified. Thank you.
Thank you, Law Director. Go right ahead, sir.
Sean Hopkins with Pikewood Manor. I wanted to reiterate that the city's dedicated street on Griswold, that goes clear almost back to that red barn. So that's still, you have other homeowners back there other than Pikewood Manor, like Holtzman's. They need access to that. And I'm also thinking about semi-traffic. I mean, yeah, minimal cars, but with Pikewood, here come March, April, we're gonna start breaking ground behind there for the 127 unit expansion. So we're looking at repaving that road. And I mean, if this place goes in, I mean, why would we repave that road, you know, for their benefit? I'd like to see either the city or this project, you know, put money into repaving that road, because where you've seen the Jersey barriers, if you can go back to that picture, the only reason those Jersey barriers are there is to stop people from illegal dumping, okay? That was a very big problem back when Summers owned the property, everything. So that's not the end of the city street. That city street goes almost 3/4 of the way back through that property. And what about security on this place? What are they gonna do for security at this place? I mean, Pikewood Manor has, you know, the City of Elyria Police Department, you know, off-duty officers back there. What is this? We're planning on putting many homes back there. Is there gonna be fencing, security, anything like that? Also, right now, it is very quiet back there. I mean, Pikewood Manor is a very quiet community, very secure. Is this place gonna be loud at night? I mean, is it run 24 hours a day with semis coming in and out? I don't know the extent of it, but I'd like to know.
Sir, you know, seeing that you have some concerns and others do as well, when we have the public hearing on February 20th, you know, everybody will be here present to answer those questions and get into a little bit more detail. So, you know, it will be addressed before this thing gets completely passed through the complete city council.
Okay. And one more thing, it's 50th Street. That is a dedicated street through there right now, correct? Because there's 3 properties back there, which I think is the Olsons, which connect off of there. And the plan that they had, it showed a drive going in 50th, but nothing else. So is their drive taking up 50th Street?
Okay, and that's a thing that should be addressed, and I know that the engineers will be here, these folks will be here, and I hope you're here along with others.
Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate that. Are there any other questions or concerns before I read the committee report? Okay, we have considered the matter of a rezoning request to rezone multiple parcels of property located on Leona Street between Midway Boulevard and 52nd Street from Business Neighborhood BN to Business General BG. This is an ordinance authorizing the said rezoning request. Please note that this matter was approved by Elyria Planning Commission on January 18th, 2024. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schneider, seconded by Mr. Oswald.
Question?
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Just one more reminder, Tuesday, the 20th of February, 7 p.m. here in council chambers. Tentative. Okay, at this time, I'd ask Mr. Tolet to please call finance.
We'll call finance to order.
Thank you, Mr. Tolet. Two items on the agenda for the joint committee meeting tonight. The first is the approval of the joint meeting minutes from November 27th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Mitchell, seconded by Mr. Schneider.
Question?
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 2 is a matter of a request for an exception to the city subordination policy for rehabilitation loans. Community Development Director Scott.
Thank you, and through you. Vivian Noel, 154 Bell Avenue, has put in a request to an exception of the city subordination policy so that she can proceed with a reverse mortgage. This would allow her to pay annual property taxes and homeowners insurance, along with providing her some cash out to assist with credit card debt relief and to also provide assistance to build an addition onto the structure. She is on a fixed income. The city's policy states that no subordinations will be granted where the total of all existing and proposed mortgages and liens against the property would exceed 90% of the appraised value. Furthermore, no subordinations will be granted where the mortgage includes cash out unless the total of all existing and proposed mortgages and liens is less than 70% of the appraised value. The bank has appraised the property. That value came back at $84,000. So if you take the city's proposed loan on top of the city's loans that we have on the property, it totals to just over $145,000, which would put 173% of the value of the home. Therefore, a waiver of the subordination policy is being requested. Once again, she did receive an estimated amount of $10,920 cash out at closing. She is current on her property taxes, and as a reminder, the city's loans are forgivable in the year 2027. Due to the total liens exceeding 90% of the appraised value on the property and the fact that cash out is going to be received and it'll exceed that 70% marker, the Community Development Department is not in favor of the request at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Mrs. Davis.
Through you, Chair. I've already have spoken to Mrs. Scott, and there seems not to be enough information about this loan, and one being that the additional, to build an additional structure to it, I want to know what you're building, what are you trying to add to the property, and the credit card debts, and then I'm not a fan of reverse mortgage. So I would like to know more information about this property and the loans, and let you know that it is in my ward. So I want to know, you know, as far as I know now, the houses, it looks decent and so forth, but I want to know what you want to add to the property, and do you have the room at this property to add what you're trying to add? More information is definitely needed before I would not go along with this at this present time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Ms. Scott, is there anything right now in writing on, the money that they're going to get for the remodel? So they don't get the money and then run with that, you know, do something different, go on vacation with that money. I think that has to be put in there if by chance something does get approved, to state that you have, you know, a certain contractor lined up, and so that the money goes towards doing that until it gets released. And I forget, there is a process on that. I just don't know what the name of it is, so.
Through you, if that's the way that this committee would choose to go, and if that, you know, is something that you would like to see, we would definitely work with the law department on that. And just to inform you, I do not have a quote or a copy of a contract to date from the homeowner. However, I have not requested that either.
Audra.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding from the documentation supplied by the homeowner, I mean, typically, as far as the bank or the financing company, it looks like it's, you know, through Fannie Mae, is that it would be cash out. So if as I understand it, if the committee is saying that they would be in favor of considering a subordination and us taking a secondary position, or tertiary, however many steps back down the ladder. You know, if she were to agree not to take cash out, obviously, she states that she needs to pay down some credit card debts. We don't know how much that entails. It does say that she wants to do some renovations due to the fact that she is disabled. I would note that I have confirmed with Director Scott that our loan was just from 2022, so the city provided about a little over $19,000 to put into the home. I don't know what those specifically entailed, but as Mrs. Davis said, the house is looking decent. That may well be because of the 2022 influx from the city. I'm sure that didn't hurt. I would say that it was of concern to my office that total liens on the property total 173% of the value of the home. I understand that property values are all over the place right now, especially here in our community, but that was of considerable concern.
Thank you, Law Director. Mr. Schneider.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Scott. She hasn't indicated how she's going to fund the addition, correct? Like, that's not coming out of the reverse or anything, has the homeowner indicated?
Through you, she did not specify where exactly that would be coming from.
Okay, so then that could potentially be even greater than the 173%. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Sawarka, then it'll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. This may be relative to this request. Is she going through a local lending institution? Do you know?
I don't believe so. I can look that up here really quick. I do have some documentation. It's from Senior Settlement Services, the person I've been in communication with. They're a division of Equity Settlement Services, which is out of Smithtown, New York. Is who I've been in communication with.
As a follow-up through you, Mr. Chairman. So we gave her a loan in '22 for $19,000 to do repairs to her property or some such thing. I agree with Mrs. Davis. I think that we need to know a little bit more on where this money is going to go. What's the improvement to the structure? Can she even do an improvement to the structure? You know, is it a new garage? Is it I think there's a lot more questions here, and that's a lot of value on the books for a home that's valued at half of that, less than half of that amount. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I think we have to remember that the rules say that the mortgage or the lien against the property would not exceed 90%. She's at 173%. So to me, it's kind of a moot point, whatever she wants the money for. She's already exceeding it. So I don't understand, I guess. She's already exceeding it.
Yes, certainly is.
Community Development recommends that we don't do this because she is exceeding it by such a great amount. I think we should go with that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, concerns? So putting it out there and voting no drops the whole thing? Or are we going to be getting more information?
Through you, it would be at the committee's discretion. I would be more than happy to reach out to the bank and the homeowner to try and get some answers to some of these questions that you have. Or, you know, if you vote, you know, not to, I can let the bank know, and if they choose to restructure and maybe come back before the committee with something different, we can do that.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sarah.
Mr. Chair, through you, was the homeowner notified that there was a meeting tonight?
I notified the bank who was to notify the homeowner.
Okay, and nobody showed up, I take it?
I do not believe they're present.
Thank you.
Mr. Lippian.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Yeah, it would be good to get more narrative on why she's requesting the exemption or the exception, especially because the liens are so far above the threshold of the limit that the policy states is acceptable. Perhaps if they were more marginal, it would be a little bit easier to justify, but perhaps some more narrative on the issue she's having with navigating the upstairs of the property. Explaining more about the importance of access to that, given the condition, might be more information that could help us understand.
Thank you, Mr. Lippian. Are there any other questions, concerns?
Through you, Mr. Chair, should the committee or the joint committee desire, you'd have a motion to table pending further information from bank and or property owner, or have a motion to have the committee report.
Okay.
Dealer's choice.
I'm sorry. Yeah, dealer's choice. Okay, I guess I'll start out by saying, I'd like to get a little bit more information here from the homeowner. Just to be fair, we've taken it this far. So I personally, doesn't mean it's the right answer, would recommend that we table it in regards to getting a little more information. Unless somebody is, okay. Yes, Mr. Oswald.
I'd like to make a motion that we table it, if that's how we have to do it.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Well, through community development, then, Mr. Oswald has made a motion to table it.
I'll second.
And Mrs. Mitchell is second. Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried.
On behalf of finance, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
We are
Motion
tabling.
carried by both committees. This will be tabled until we hear from Mrs. Scott. Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Seeing no further business for community development, I'd accept a motion to adjourn community development.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schneider, seconded by Mr. Lippian.
Question.
Question on the motion. All in favor of the motion, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
And I will start finance in 3 minutes. That'll give anyone who needs to use their facilities.
Can I use your copy machine? Is it on?
I think if somebody's coming, you want them ready.
I'll call finance to order. Good evening, everyone. First item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the finance meeting minutes from January 8th. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the matter of demolition charges to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office. Mr. Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. This is a request for a demolition for 235 Bath Street. It took place in November of last year, and it was emergency demolition. The cost of the demolition was over $18,000. It was a two-story structure of a severe hoarding situation, floor to ceiling. It took many dumpsters to abate. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Farkas from the committee? Ms. Davis.
Through you, Chair. Was this a fire or was it was a fire, right? No?
Mr. Chair, through you, Mrs. Davis. No, ma'am. It was a complaint from the actual fire department regarding a person living in the structure without any gas and water. We investigated and found it was much, much worse.
It was a hoarding situation, which many times are brought to the attention of the fire department because of safety issues. Are there any other questions for Mr. Farkas? If there are none, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of placing liens on the attached list of properties for boarding up and securing those properties. A resolution authorizing the said charges to be certified as liens to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office as per attached. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Any additional questions?
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use a voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the matter of a resolution for the Lorraine County Auditor regarding the receipt of funds. Director Pileski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Up until now, all the subdivisions in Lorraine County have received their property tax distributions twice a year via paper check, and now the county auditor is going to provide our distributions via direct deposit, ACH transactions. So this resolution will basically give them the authority to do that for us. And I provided a sample resolution from the Lorraine County Auditor's Office, what they're looking for, so.
Okay, all we are is how we accept the funds.
Correct, yeah. We've always received it in the mail by check. Now they're gonna do it via direct deposit.
All right, here's my dump. Do you have to set up a separate accounting?
No, we already have the information, we'll provide the county with our routing number, bank account number. It goes directly into the city's operating checking account.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Director Pileski? I have no questions at this time, therefore I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of receipt of funds by electronic transfer from Lorraine County Auditor and or Lorraine County Treasurer. Excuse me, Mr. Pileski, do you need this as an emergency?
I would say yes, because their property tax bills have gone out, so I believe they're going to start with this next distribution. So the banking information is due to them tomorrow, so we will be submitting that to them tomorrow, or actually due the 31st, but we'll be sending that to the county auditor tomorrow.
I apologize. The emergency clause requested is in the...
Okay.
I apologize. To continue with this, a resolution authorizing financial transactions by using electronic transaction, including receipt of funds from county offices. Emergency clause requested. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Any additional questions?
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is number 4, the matter of authorizing the city of Elyria to apply for and accept up to $15,000 for asset management program development. This is what we just heard about with Mr. Jacob. Mr. Jacob, if you want to touch on it again.
Mr. Chair, like I said before, this is a $15,000 grant through the Ohio EPA to update our asset management plan for the water pumping and distribution.
Any additional questions for Mr. Jacob? Mr. Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so $15,000, is there any chance that this goes over that? I mean, drastically over, or? If it goes over, we've had some quotes right around 20 to 25,000. And there was money in water pumping's budget to do it already without the grant. So. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of applying for up to $15,000 for asset management program development through the Ohio EPA. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept the said grant. Emergency clause is requested. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Any additional questions?
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, number 5, the matter of authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional services agreement with Rafter A Ltd. Limited. Like to take over? Okay. Yes, if you could speak to it, please. Yes.
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. This matter is, again, a professional services agreement. Essentially design engineering. It's a required step under our settlement agreement regarding the connector road. The issue of the funding will be addressed shortly. In the appropriations, there are monies in the TIF from the Chestnut Commons TIF, and the estimate is $85,000. And I will answer any questions that you may have, and any technical questions, not to throw them under the bus, but Mr. Schneider's here, and he will be much better at answering them than I will.
This is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this is what we agreed upon as full council, and then we will be reimbursed on this through the TIF, if that makes sense for anyone. Mr. Pileski.
So we will be paying for this out of the note proceeds,
From the TIF.
not from the TIF, for the project itself. The TIFs have not started coming in yet because there's no development. So once the TIFs come in, the TIFs will repay the note that we issued. By then, we're probably going to retire the note and issue long-term bonds. The TIFs then will pay off the bonds, but this will come out of the the note proceeds, which eventually will actually be the bonds. So the TIFs will cover it, but not directly.
Thank you for that clarification.
Think about it as taking it out of one pocket and putting it in the other. I'm sorry. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not on the committee, so I didn't know if somebody else wanted to speak first. If not, I had a question. I know this is part of our agreement, and I believe that and this is an engineering question, Mr. Schneider, maybe. So was the properties subdivided first, and that's the process that they did? And then what actually are we paying in the engineering? What is for the work that is being engineered? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, the properties have not been subdivided yet. Currently, it's still as it was when it was approved a few years ago. Largely, the work will include going out, surveying the entire property, and adjusting grades on the parcels, adding any additional swales or drainage pipes that may be needed to accommodate the overall development. I have seen some preliminary drawings that show the land being subdivided up, but it's not final obviously yet and still could change, so.
So grading as swales essentially for stormwater purposes, development, to allow for the development. To proceed.
Did you have a follow-up question?
Please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I seen that they had been doing some flag work out there and putting some markers. So, because I think this was the whole thing that we didn't know how to do any type of work before we knew how these lots were going to be subdivided. So we really still don't have that answer exactly how those lots are going to be subdivided. So you can give a good engineering of what we have to do for that work?
I can, through you, Mr. Chair. So as part of the settlement, the city has contracted with, or is in the process of contracting, I should say, with design engineer, that is Rafter A. The developer has selected his, or I should say the company's own engineering. They are working together. And then, in fact, there is a third engineer that is, if needed, and thankfully has not yet been needed, will serve, I guess, as an arbiter jury of sorts, should each side's engineers not agree. Our engineers, their engineers are putting their very intelligent engineering heads together, and they are hammering out a solution. And that is why we are here before you today, so that we can pay our engineers to get this thing rolling. Is that a good way to, am I good? Is that accurate?
Yes, Law Director.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Sawerka?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a question about, it says that the initial amount estimated is 85. So that's the floor or the ceiling, or that's just our ballpark guess and they'll come back if it increases? That's question number one. My second question is, when will this get started, and is there a time frame for start and finish?
So through you, the not to exceed will be $85,000. So that's what we would be requesting. In short, the work is already underway. So.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So then the committee report will say not to exceed, because on the referral, it doesn't say the not to exceed. Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
But I mean, obviously, it's all subject to what the committee desires. But yes, that would be my recommendation, is that it would be a not to exceed $85,000.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Are there any other questions for the committee? Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So once we do this, this will close the deal on the lawsuit and we'll be able to move on. Am I correct in saying that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. At this point, the lawsuit has been dismissed. The lawsuit was dismissed when we did that settlement more than several months ago. This is part of that agreement.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. This is our final finished, what we have to do.
Well, it's still a road. It's still a process, but this is, we're moving towards, and ultimately moving towards making something out there. So, that, I will say that, and this is why people don't like lawyers, but
Okay.
I will say that.
Are there any other questions at this time?
I have a question.
Mr. Stewart?
I'm not on this committee, so with all that being said, when do we have a timeline on when this will be completed? I mean, I know there's some initial stages, but as far as, is there an expectation of when we're looking to kind of resolve the issue, or is that still fluid? I mean, just asking.
I do not have, for you, Mr. Chair, I do not have exact specifications. This is also, obviously, if you haven't been able to figure out, not my area of expertise. But I can tell you that the two engineering teams have already met. They've already been in discussions, and there's been some preliminary plans.
Dialogue.
That have been bantered back and forth, and I think and some agreements have been reached. So I do not know specifically, Mr. Schneider, feel free to jump in as far as timelines.
I believe there was a timeline in the agreement,
Okay.
a general timeline.
Yeah.
In talking with the engineers, it sounded like they were going to need approximately 4 to 6 months to complete the work. So, I mean, they said they'd push as fast as they can, but at the same time, they have to be reasonable.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Because the work has begun, do we need to change this to emergency?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we will be going back and forth as far as hammering out the professional services agreement. So we will.
Okay.
But when we do get to council, we will likely request a suspension of the rules.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a professional service agreement with Rafter A Limited for design engineering professional service agreement. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into the said agreement required for the settlement agreement reached in the DBR commercial realty litigation. It is not, the not to exceed amount for the project is $85,000 from the Chestnut Commons Connector Fund. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
We've got a motion
Second.
to approve and properly seconded. Any additional questions?
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Then the final item on the finance agenda is the matter of amendments to the 2024 temporary appropriations. Finance Director Pileski, I believe the only one is for these professional services.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, yes. So the contract is $85,000, the one we just discussed. We had $68,903 already appropriated in the temporary. What I'm going to do and ask you to do is appropriate $50,109 additional dollars, and that is all of the remaining cash in the Chestnut Commons Connector Road Fund. So the $5.2 million that we borrowed in notes, we used that money to pay for the construction of the road. We've used it to pay for legal fees associated with the lawsuit. This is the remaining monies, and hopefully this $85,000 and then what other legal bills are left will fit inside this amount left to appropriate. So, if not, then we may have to revisit the notes when they mature, which will be in June. We may have to bump up that note figure if there's going to be any more cost associated with the finish of that project.
So the revision is 50,109.
Correct.
Bringing the total up to 119,012.
Correct.
Thank you. Any additional questions? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of amendments to the 2024 temporary appropriations and ordinance authorizing the approval of the attached list of amendments to the 2024 temporary appropriations. Can I get a motion?
Move.
Second.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Any additional questions?
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use a voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that concludes. If I could get a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone. Dan?
Got that new job, he's doing good.
Hey, Brad, did you see Kevin Kirshner's posting on Facebook about 409?